I got asked the other day if I would do a couple of videos. So this is the first one out of the couple. So again, if anyone has any questions that they wanted to ask me or Rachel, feel free. You can either put them in the group or you can message us individually and we can see what we can try and do. So I was asked about taking pictures or self-portraits generally, like how do I go about taking my self-portraits. So I thought I'd do a quick video, and the quickest way that I could do it is just show you some pictures of the bits of equipment that I do, like that I've got that enable me to do self-portraits. And then I'll, at the end of it, I'll talk a little bit about other options that we have. So if I go straight into it. So first thing that I have, sorry about these images a bit small, these are not my photos. So the first thing I have is a tripod. I bought my tripod when I first bought my camera, so my tripod isn't the best. I could do with one that's a bit more stable, but for taking pictures like self-portraits around the house or in the studio, it is fine to use. But I also do lots of different other photography, so I'd like to have one that's a bit more stable and a bit more sturdier. So you need a tripod of sorts, or a surf, like if you're doing it in your house, if you've got somewhere where you can stand your camera that's at the right level to be able to do your self-portrait, then as long as you balance it safely, balance it on something and do it from there. Next thing you're going to need is obviously a camera and a lens, although some cameras might come with a fixed lens on them, so then you wouldn't need a separate camera and a lens, but obviously mine is a camera and a lens. Again, I use flash for my images, so I've got battery operated pro photos, but you can get same kind of thing in a Godox or Elinchrom style light, with that they're all coming now with the batteries, and they're more portable to take around with you if you wish so, or just a normal studio flash, or you can do natural light, or you can do continuous light. So whatever you prefer as your lighting source, then that's what you can go with. I prefer studio flash, so got the flash I used on the example that I'm showing you at the moment. I used a beauty dish, Pro Photo beauty dish, with mine, because I didn't need the light spill to go like cover my whole body, because I was only doing head and shoulders shots, so beauty dish was sufficient enough for that. If you're getting into like waist up or full body shots, then you need to maybe choose different types of lighting modifiers and stuff like that. But for what I wanted, it was a one light setup with a beauty dish. Then I had a trigger for my light, but obviously if you are using natural light or continuous light, you won't need a trigger, but you'll need a trigger. You'll need a lighting stand to put the light on, obviously. I've got these, I can't remember what they are. I've got a set of 4, because where I shoot weddings as well, I use them from there. So I've got 4 lighting stands that I have. I've also got a C stand as well, or boom arm, as some people might want to refer to it. You'll need, maybe or maybe not, depending on what you're taking a self-portrait of, you'll need some kind of backdrop. I use like a floor fade backdrop. I think they're called floor fade. So basically it's a wall that fades into a floor. Not quite the same as this. I just went and took this image off Google. But the one that I've got is a brown one. And I quite like the texture on the back of it, but also the size of this one in particular that I've got is the same size as my, or just slightly bigger than my door. in my bedroom. I was taking self-portraits mainly in my house, and the easiest place without the dog getting in the way and stuff like that was in my bedroom, and I'd shut the door, and on the back of the door I've got hooks to support my dressing gowns and stuff like that. It just so happened that the gap of my doorway between my wall and my fixed wardrobe was just enough to get this particular backdrop that I'd bought for newborn shoots, and the hooks for my dressing gowns and that just so happened to be sufficient to hang the backdrops off of. Like they was on a roll, they're on a cardboard roll, and that hooked over the thing, so it worked out very well for me. But otherwise, you might need a backdrop stand, or you might want to tape your backdrop to a wall, or there's a manner of different ways, or you might just want the natural backing of wherever you're doing this self-portrait. So I've got a backdrop stand in there, because you need, if you're using a backdrop, you need something to support your backdrop, obviously. And this is the hook that I think it's pretty much exactly the same hook that's on the back of my bedroom door that supports my roll with my backdrop on it. Then I had a stall as well. My one's not a blue one, my one's a white one, but it's the same stall as this, just to make sure that because of the distance that I was shooting from the camera to where I was to where my backdrop was, I wanted to sit down because I only had my head and shoulders, and it saves me putting the light up too high, etc., and stuff like that. So I just had one of these stalls because it wasn't going to be in the image or anything like that. And then the last thing that you need is a remote. So I've got this remote. The main reason why I've got this remote is to do with doing long exposure, nighttime photos and stuff like that, because it's got all different types of timers on it. So if I'm shooting the stars or something like that, I can set it up and it will time for X, like maybe 10 shots, and it will do it for X amount of time and stuff like that. However, if you're just doing normal kind of indoor portraits, you don't need something like this. This was, I think, £39 or something like that. You can get like the infrared remotes and stuff like that for your cameras cheaper. Depends on what you're going to use it for, but this is the one I had. But you do need a remote, mainly because the lens I selected to do my headshots on doesn't have a switch on it to switch it between automatic and manual focus. So what I needed to do was half press it to get the focus on me, and then to be able to take the shot. Where if you haven't got a remote and you might be shooting with a lens similar to that or something like that, you need to try and get it to focus on something where you set the timer, and then be able to go and stand back in that position of where you set it up for. I've done that once and it was quite difficult. I've got a lot of blurry images from that set. So this is what I bought. Now what I'm going to do is I'll do a separate video as well to talk to people about lens selection, because it's not necessarily all about the one with the lowest f-stop or anything like that. When you're selecting certain lenses for certain types of shoots, it depends on what kind of look you're going for, or how much of the background you want in the image, and so on and so forth, or how you want the people sitting in front of the backdrop, because all them kind of things do actually make a difference with your lens selection. However, a lot of people can be restricted on their lens selection depending on the size of the space that you're shooting in. I had a restricted space because I was shooting in my bedroom, I wanted to shoot from a certain direction, mainly to hold the backdrop up and to give myself enough space. So I was shooting on the narrowest direction of my bedroom, which gave me, I think it's probably around about 3 or 4 meters to be able to shoot, space to shoot in. So like I could have shot in a smaller space, not a problem. I would have just had to, instead of using a 55mm lens, I would have had to go down to a 35mm lens. But I wanted to use the 55mm lens. Ideally, I would have wanted to use an 85mm lens. But the space that I was shooting in just didn't allow for what I needed to get into the image. Me allowed to get an 85mm lens on there, but I'll talk a bit more about that in a different video. So what I wanted to show you was what I done throughout this shoot, to show you like how many images I literally took to be able to select from. So obviously at first I was trying to look into the mirror that was placed behind the camera to be able to see where I was placed. Obviously, as you can see, that it's all off to one side, so I made a bit of a readjustment and then more of a readjustment there to make sure that I was more centralised in the backdrop. Then I moved the camera slightly. I worked out that I could move it away from where I was, and again I moved it slightly again to be able to center himself up better and with the crown on top and so on. So I was setting up to make sure that the catch lights was in the right place. So I knew that I had my lights in the right place for the type of lighting that I wanted to achieve with this image. So then what I started doing is just slowly moving a small amount to be able to get the slightly different poses. I've got my trigger in my hand the whole time, and I'm just moving my head up, down, shoulders left and right, to be able to try and get the image that I wanted to achieve. As you could, like, sometimes it's not as easy as you think it might be doing a self-portrait to be able to get what you want to. So lifting shoulders up, dropping them down, bringing them round, bringing them head round, bringing like from left to right, and then obviously sometimes I'll be like that, oh, blinked. And just making sure, like, because I wanted to make sure that the eyeshadow could be seen, so I needed to bring my head up so my eyelids drop down, so on and so forth. But I also wanted to show the cards in all their full glory, and also kind of give that look of a royal, regal kind of imagery, really, to go with the whole Queen of Hearts session. So again, I moved the camera slightly. That would have been where I got up and went and checked the back of the camera, and probably just moved the whole thing slightly. So I started again, doing a few more shots, blinked, and it was like mouth together, mouth slightly open, and all bits and pieces like that. So chin up, chin down, going to the left, going to the right, and then finally we came to the final image, which would be somewhere there. So that was the final image that I got from that session. Out of that whole session, when I go through and I'm culling images, for some reason the ones I want to keep, I keep at a 3-star or more, well, generally just a 3-star. So out of that session there was literally that one there and that image there, so I'd flick between the two and see which ones I would prefer, and obviously I went for that other image, and that was then edited, and that was the final outcome. Now when you are to hold the trigger in your hand on a head and shoulders shot, it's very easy. Your trigger's out of the way. If you are doing something with your hands and you need the hands to be in the shot, so then obviously you can't hold the trigger. What you can do is you'll put yourself in the position, but you can set your timer on your camera to either 3 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever your cameras do. And then you push your button, put your trigger down, get your hands into the position that you want to get your hands into position, and then the camera obviously takes a shot. Some cameras you can set it so you can do a burst of 3 images with the same set. So if you've got 3 seconds, you can do, it'll count down for you 3 seconds, take an image, it'll count for another 3 seconds, take another image, and then it'll count for another 3 seconds, and then take a third image and stuff like that. So that can be also good depending on what kind of shot you're doing. If you're doing like a full body shot and stuff like that, again, you might want to set the timer a little bit longer, so you've got longer to kind of throw the trigger to one side and hold your pose in that. But that's how I would do self-portraits, and hopefully that's enough information for you to get out there and start trying to do some self-portraits. So I will leave it there for tonight, and then hopefully there's 2 more videos that I'm going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. So one of them will be about lens selection, and I'll try and get some pictures done to be able to give you a bit more of an idea of what I'm talking about when I'm discussing my lens selection and so on and so forth. So thank you ever so much for joining in and listening.